And the Council on Foreign Relations is the trusted third party of the Archbishop of New York. And so during the 30s, at least as of 1939, Francis Spellman was the Archbishop of New York, and he is rightly titled as the American Pope in work, The American Pope, written in 1988. So what I'd like to see is this. I would like to see your script put into a movie. This is the beginning of a three-part play, a three-part movie series that will make the producer hundreds of millions of dollars in conjunction with telling the truth around the world.
Isn't that wonderful?
This will first expose the papacy, the Jesuit order, and the SS having carried out the Eurasian Jewish Holocaust. And by the way, I find it intriguing that the Latin phrase sede sectorium, the Holy See, is the Latin phrase that the SS used on their lapels.
Yes, isn't that amazing? They're wearing the uniform.
Fantastic. That was a wonderful point you brought out in your
script. In the script.
The next,
where is the source for that, brother?
What's that?
Victor, where's the source of the SS?
Well, I got it from several sources. This one came from I believe it's in I don't know the exact book I got it out of, but there were some I don't have it here in front of me. I'm sorry to tell you that, but because I had like 7, 8 books that I read it from, and it was confirmed because I looked up when I did research on this story. I had several dictionaries I was working out of, and one was one of the original Latin translations of studies of that term, secorum. So a lot of this I came on my own, and then it was verified in 1 or 2 books that I read. And I'm sorry, I do have source material, but I don't have that one available. But
well, as I might add, that remember the SS was born out of the Freikorps. The Freikorps was born out of Bamberg. Bamberg was never bombed in World War II, and the Archbishop of Bamberg was overseen by the Jesuits' Church of St. Michael, I believe. St. Martin, Church of St. Martin, there in Bamberg. So the SS was born out of Bamberg, out of the Archbishop von Hauck, who was there in Bamberg. So there's no doubt that the SS was patterned after the Jesuit order. It used Jesuit symbology, and of course Skull and Bones is one of their symbols too. But as I was saying, this is the first part in a 3-part movie. The first part shows that the Jesuits were behind the Eurasian Jewish Holocaust. Hitler, as well as Stalin, working together, overseen and financed by FDR and Churchill and the whole Anglo-American power structure. Secondly, after this, we're going to show how Cardinal Spellman was the kingpin in the Vatican rat lines coming into the U.S., bringing in approximately 20,000 Nazis after the war.
That's right.
It's when we show this, then, we will also bring you up to the Kennedy assassination, because Francis Cardinal Spellman oversaw the entire assassination using his Knights of Malta, like Henry Robinson Luce and John McCone and Cartha DeLoach, third in command of the FBI. I have it all in my book. And then once we show that Cardinal Spellman was behind the assassination of Kennedy, his own Roman Catholic Knight of Columbus, then this will morph into 9/11 and show that Edward Cardinal Egan was the overseer of 9/11 using his Knight of Malta, George J. Tenet, head of the CIA and on the National Security Agency. It's the same organization. It never changes. And this play would be, I believe, the first of a series of 3 that would shake and rock the world.
Well, I think within the context of the script the way it is, I certainly have to pay homage to Warren Lambert and to the story and to his grandson and in telling the story. Don't forget, he's the gentleman that came to me to write this. So certainly we have to focus there. I agree with you on everything you said. I never saw this to be a one-part series. I think that the story alone on Spellman and on the death of Kennedy, I would take that separate, and that's a story in of itself. That's a 3-act. That's a 3-act play, and give it the integrity that it needs. I'm not saying that I wouldn't mention it in here, because look,
But you could mention Spellman there because
he's here. He's the scenes I have with him within the script has him going to Rome to one time he left with the gold. They were talking. They made reference to the fact that he would leave the Vatican with big boxes, heavy boxes that he would have to have people carry out. He was introduced to and encouraged to be the American Pope in a way by Mother Pasqualina at the beginning, but then she lost all faith in him later on when she found out what his character was. What is great, Eric, about...
Well, Mother Pasqualina was involved in lots of the shenanigans with Pius XII, and when he died, they kicked her out of the Vatican.
Well, they kicked her out of the Vatican. He had a long time. The French Cardinal Tisserman, who was in our script, took on the Pope many times. Eric, this is the first time anybody's ever gone backstage into the halls of the Vatican during the time of the Holocaust.
Yes.
See the way these people spoke.
Amen. Well, Victor, we have to take a break here, but we'll be right back after station identification here at Liberty Radio Live, Biblical Truth and History and Prophecy, with my advisor, Walt Williams, and also with my special guest, Victor Perrilo, here on Liberty Radio Live. With Eric John Phelps, Biblical Truth and History and Prophecy, back with my advisor, Walt Williams. And Walt, just feel free to question or chime in whenever you want to. And I'm with my special guest today, Victor Perrilo, who is a playwright and has written the Lambert Chronicles, depicting the life of Warren Lambert, who was a great American hero who told the truth about what happened at Nuremberg.
Good brother.
Okay, please.
Victor, I'd like to ask you, are you aware of Joseph Kennedy silencing the producers, the movie magnates in Hollywood, cautioning them not to speak out against Adolf Hitler before World War II, our entry into World War II?
I'm aware of it. I never did any research on it when I was researching this project.
He was one of the three men who caused the stock market crash in 29, and he ran Hollywood. He basically financed and guided whatever went on there, and restricted and encouraged only information that would provoke the American people into right-wing fascism, which is what they're doing even today. It hasn't changed.
That's interesting because this leads right into what I wanted to talk with Victor about, and those are certain personages of the plays. To begin with, we have Cardinal Spellman, which is infamous. Who is infamous?
Right.
But Cardinal Spellman was advised by and overseen by Edmund Walsh, and we cannot overestimate the influence and power of this singular American Jesuit at Georgetown University in Washington. Jesuit Edmund Walsh was at the Treaty of Versailles, making sure the Germans were slam-dunked, and so enraging them, putting the whole war guilt on them, that it guaranteed war in 20 years. Walsh was there. The other thing is, Edmund Walsh was also in Moscow from 1922 to 24, who was the former negotiator between the Vatican and the Bolsheviks. I cover this extensively in my book. Walsh was there for approximately 2 years. And there, in 1922, he appointed Joseph Stalin to be secretary of the Communist Party, which he remained so until his death in 1953, or his poisoning, I should say. So Walsh was intricately involved in the Bolshevik Revolution, intricately involved in the Treaty of Versailles, and intricately involved with FDR, because as soon as FDR was, quote-unquote, elected president, one of the first things was recognize the USSR, and he did it in the White House, and sitting right next to him was Jesuit Edmund Walsh. So Edmund Walsh is a key player in this, and he is a personal friend of Robert Graham and also Robert Le Beer. Robert Le Beer, this Jesuit Robert Le Beer, was a personal confessor of Pius XII of Pacelli, And Robert Graham was also intimately involved with Libere, and these two Jesuits, in conjunction with two other Jesuits, censored all of the Third Reich history, the war history that is in the Vatican, and has placed it out of reach, I think, until 2050, something like that. But there are four Jesuits, two of them, Robert Libere and Robert Graham, censored this history, and our friend Warren Lambert has done much to overturn this terrible censorship.
Well, now you're fighting the cause, and is exactly what I'm saying is because Warren Lambert spoke out. His wife spoke out. He took the notes. There's no denying the notes. The roles in this story of Tisserant and Pascalina, you see the list there. These were all real people. They didn't come from my imagination. And 90%
and by
of the
the way,
dialogue
as
is
we
what
mentioned,
they said.
Sumner Wells was a member of the CFR, along with Cordell Hull, CFR.
Yeah, Cordell Hall, and Robert Reams. But here's the issue here is that we make so much reference when we talk about Holocaust films and Holocaust, and you mentioned Hollywood here. I don't believe that this, and I know it's not going to be produced out of any producer out of here. It's going to be a foreign producer or somebody in Canada or New York, and somebody that has the guts that Warren had, and to speak out at the time that if anybody even said anything negative about the Vicar of Christ on earth, they would be stoned. And certainly you wouldn't say anything against the government. And people talked in whispers back then, and the slang word for the Jews, was used on the street all the time, So you're right, the press was silenced by Spells.
You mean Kike?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And he, yeah, it's true. And back then, people were open about. So there was a lot of, there was a lot of people pontificating here and saying, how sorry they were for everything, and then under their breath they were cheering Hitler on. But Hitler had friends, he had aides. He had aides in powerful liturgical places. He had them in the government, and they all were sitting cheering. And that's what's so great about this story and this script is that we have one man who asked questions. And he wasn't the only man back then. I mean, there were others that spoke out. But we have one man. So when we see his story, and we at the end we say, well, Vic, in his notes they kept saying, he never said anything. He never took on the Pope. He never did that. I said, look, I'm talking about the time in which he lived. I have dramatic license as a writer to write about the time in which he lived, where people would be scared to death to take notes and write things, and he did it, and he exposed the most vicious organization in the world, a group, I don't know what you could call them, but he exposed the Jesuits. He exposed them. He doesn't beat up on the church. He beats up on the individuals in the church, and we're telling three stories here. But,
so he does write of the Jesuits.
Well, he writes, he makes reference. It wasn't just him that I got the information from. His wife, Hazel, was one of the very first people with go to the jail with the bitch of Buchenwald.
Oh yes, I remember her.
And she confronted her, and we had the attorney William Denson, who wrote a book as well about he was the lawyer, American lawyer that tried everything. And when she got freed, he just gave up. He got so pregnant, and some American senators protected her. She eventually killed herself in a prison in Germany because they got her back there. But when you hear about the ritualistic activities that went on in the concentration camps, that the Blessed Mary statue was outside of the concentration camps, and when Eisenhower came, he ordered them all removed.
Is that right? The Blessed Virgin Mary was outside the concentration camps?
Yeah, it was outside the door.
Was Dachau one of them?
No, Dachau wasn't. I believe it was Nuremberg. Confined. incidentally, they did find relics, religious relics, that the German